It was one of those lazy Sunday afternoons, the kind where time seems to slow down just enough for you to appreciate it. The sunlight filtered through the tall oaks behind the house, casting golden beams that made the dust in the air shimmer like flecks of gold. The breeze was warm, steady, carrying with it the faint scent of honeysuckle and fresh-cut grass. I was out back, sleeves rolled up, tinkering under the hood of my old '72 Chevy C10, a project truck that had been sitting in my garage for far too long. Grease smeared my hands and sweat dripped from my brow, but I was in my element. There's something almost meditative about turning a wrench, problem-solving, listening to the satisfying click of tools against metal. I didn't think much of the tires crunching over the gravel driveway. Out here, 10 miles outside of Riverside's town limits, people sometimes took wrong turns or came up to ask for directions. It wasn't unusual. Still, something about the rhythm of those footsteps on the stone, sharp and purposeful, tugged at my attention. "Sir, excuse me. Sir, we need to speak with you immediately." The voice was shrill, clipped, like she was trying too hard to sound authoritative. Wiping the sweat from my face with an old rag, I set my wrench down and stepped out from behind the open hood. What I saw made me pause. Standing at the edge of my driveway was a woman in a navy blazer. The kind of blazer that practically screamed, "I'm important," even if the person wearing it clearly wasn't. She had her hair tied back in a tight bun, not a single strand out of place, her lips pressed together like she had a sour taste in her mouth. Flanking her were two guys who could have passed for bouncers at a dive bar, built like brick walls, each of them wearing those cheap, off-the-rack security uniforms with badges that didn't mean a damn thing. They weren't smiling. Their eyes were hard, predatory, and they reeked of bad cologne so strong I could smell it from 10 feet away. "Can I help you?" I asked evenly, keeping my voice neutral. In my line of work, you learn real fast how to read people, and these folks were giving off the wrong kind of vibe. The woman stepped forward and puffed out her chest like a rooster in a hen house. "I'm Janet Mallory," she announced, with the Fairway Heights Homeowners Association. "We've received several complaints about the condition of your property." She waved her hand in the air like she was shooing away an invisible stink. "The vehicles, the debris. You're in clear violation of multiple covenants." I blinked. Slowly. "Debris?" She nodded once, sharply. "Yes. Debris. Trash. This isn't a junkyard." I glanced back at the Chevy, then around at my yard. The grass was cut. The tools were neatly arranged on the workbench. Sure, the truck was old and stripped down, but that's what a restoration looks like. I wasn't exactly hoarding rusted-out refrigerators on the lawn. "Ma'am," I said, "I'm restoring my truck. It's a project, not debris, and I haven't received any notice about supposed violations. As far as I know, HOA regulations require you to issue a written warning before." She cut me off with a condescending laugh. "Furthermore," she said, her tone growing colder, "we have reason to believe you are not a legal resident of this community. Can you provide proof of residency?" That was when the hairs on the back of my neck started to prickle. This wasn't about HOA violations. This was something else entirely. "I've lived in this house for 15 years, I replied, my voice hardening. "I built half of it with my own 2 hands. And everyone around here knows I live here. They also know what I do for a living." Janet Mallory narrowed her eyes. "And what do you claim to do for a living, sir?" I met her gaze dead on. "I am Sheriff Metropolitan. This is my property." For a second, something flickered in her expression. Fear? No, she was too arrogant for fear. But there was definitely surprise. Then her face snapped back into a mask of self-righteousness. "I don't care who you say you are," she snapped. "You're in violation. And until you can provide adequate identification and cease these unsavory activities, we are going to have to take you into custody." She nodded toward her 2 goons. "Cuff him." They moved forward in unison, mechanical, like they'd rehearsed this. I took a step back, my body shifting into the stance that came from years of training. My pulse quickened, but my mind stayed clear. "Look," I said, keeping my voice steady, "I'm telling you right now, I'm a sheriff of this county. You're making a mistake. If you put hands on me, this won't end the way you think." Janet's lip curled in a sneer. Don't try to intimidate us with your little charade. You're not above the law. Cuff him. One of the men reached for my arm. His grip was firm, practiced, but he wasn't ready for me to pull away with a twist that broke his hold. The second guy came at me fast, but he was telegraphing his movements. I sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and used his momentum to spin him off balance. He stumbled into his partner, and for a moment they were both tangled up, giving me a few precious seconds to create distance. I'm giving you one last chance, I said, my voice low, dangerous. Back off. Janet's face flushed bright red. You'll regret this, she hissed. Resisting arrest, assaulting officers. We'll bury you. Her words barely hung in the air before the two men charged again. This time I didn't hesitate. The first guy swung a clumsy haymaker. I ducked, drove my elbow into his ribs, and swept his legs. He hit the ground with a heavy thud. The second one lunged again, but I caught his wrist, twisted it hard, and used a simple judo throw to plant him face first in the dirt. They both groaned, stunned but not out of the fight. I kept my stance ready, feet planted, waiting for the next move. You assaulted them, Janet screamed. You're going to jail for this. I shook my head, fury simmering just under my skin. They tried to illegally detain me on my own land. That's assault, kidnapping, impersonation of law enforcement. And you orchestrated it. The second man was starting to sit up, holding his shoulder. I kept my eyes on him. Stay down, I warned. I don't want to hurt you again. Janet fumbled for her phone, her hands trembling as she dialed. Yes, she barked. I need backup. Sheriff Matthew Colton is assaulting civilians. He's resisting arrest. I exhaled slowly, watching her. This was getting deeper by the minute. Call whoever you like, I said. You're only digging yourself in deeper. She shot me a look of pure loathing, but said nothing more. I stood there in the driveway, arms folded, heart pounding, as the sound of distant sirens grew louder. It didn't take long. A patrol car screeched to a stop at the end of my drive, followed by two more. Deputy Lucas James, who I'd mentored since he was fresh out of the academy, was the first out. He took one look at the scene, the two bruised men on the ground, Janet screeching into her phone, and his expression darkened. Sheriff Colton, he said, jogging toward me. What's going on? These three tried to detain me illegally, I explained calmly. They claim to be HOA enforcement, but I've never seen them before. They wouldn't identify themselves properly, and they got physical. Lucas nodded. You want to press charges? Absolutely, I said. Assault, impersonating officers, attempted kidnapping, the works. Janet paled as two deputies approached and cuffed her. You can't do this, she shrieked. I'm with the HOA. No, ma'am, Lucas corrected. You're under arrest. As they loaded her and her muscle into patrol cars, I felt a grim satisfaction settle in my gut. But this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Later that evening, Lucas sat with me in my living room, a folder open on his lap. Her name's Janet Mallory. No official HOA ties. The two guys? Hired from a private firm out of Carson. Shady as hell. And who hired them? I asked, already dreading the answer. Lucas hesitated. Richard Harding. The name hit me like a hammer. Harding was my opponent in the upcoming sheriff's election. A man known for playing dirty. But this was beyond dirty. It was criminal. Over the next few weeks, we gathered evidence. Harding's involvement was undeniable. He'd hired Janet and her thugs to stage an incident, make it look like I was abusing power. The media ate it up. But when the truth came out, Harding's empire crumbled. He was charged with conspiracy, obstruction, and half a dozen other crimes. He went to prison. I won re-election in a landslide. But the scars from that day lingered. They called me names I won't repeat. Said I was an ape. Said I didn't belong. It was a dark chapter, but it forged something stronger in me. A deeper resolve. A promise to protect my community, no matter the cost. And it left me with one hell of a story to tell.